Time to take care of how your project will look on your screen. We will get to know and arrange the user interface elements, the so-called UI. We will also create scriptable objects. These are extremely handy and we will use them to collect all the information about the artworks and display variants of it. For this, you will need all the artwork images, which you can easily download from my website, if you haven't done so yet. Check out the previous episodes if you still have questions about the project, and now, without further ado, let's get started. Hi, I'm a part-time indie developer and illustrator. I've gained my knowledge through thousands of online tutorials, and now I want to give something back and share these skills with you. If you like these videos, subscribe to the channel to not miss new videos coming up, and if you want to support me, check out my website that contains my published games and a detailed dev blog and much more, or hit me up on Twitter. We want to display something every time we enter this. And to achieve this, let's first of all make this little window where we have all the stuff that we want to display in our game. So the good thing, we made our museum a parent object of everything. You can see I can collapse every part of it. And I'll just grab the parent object of all the other objects and move it to the left that far that I have easily space to create something new up here. I'm outside of the museum, going to the gray space, right click, go to UI. Remember, we created always empty objects, but now we're going down and we go to UI and we create a canvas. By creating a canvas, we at the same time also create an event system. But if you look at it, I'm gonna zoom out. This is our canvas object and this tiny field here is our game window. So what we have to do first is when we go to our canvas, we change in the canvas component the render mode to screen space camera. And this requires a render camera that we have in our hierarchy here called main camera. Now with our canvas object selected, we drag and drop our main camera into this slot. Furthermore, we go to UI scale mode and change to scale with screen size. And at the reference resolution, we're gonna type in what's here in the standalone resolution. So we have 1024 on 768. We will match width or height, and with this right at 0.5. Great. So next thing we're gonna do, we're gonna go on the canvas, right click and go again under UI, and here we're going to create an image. And nothing pops up because the image is behind our whole scene here. If I go on the image and just drag it to the right, you will see here it appears. At the moment it's nothing else than a white square. We want to change that. We can select a source image on its image component. We can either go here and drag and drop something inside, bam, for example our player, or we press this little circle symbol at the very right, and we can now select a sprite, and from the sprites that you can download, I have one that is called frame. And I choose this frame and close this select sprite window again. And this looks weird. It looks first of all shrinked and the ratio is not correct. To easily fix this, we can go under preserve aspect and hit this one, which will automatically resize our object and always keep the ratio correct. We're going to the rec tool, grab it and make this frame look as big as possible. Yeah, something like this. I'll still move it a little bit to the right. Okay, I had to try out a few things, and I think we go the best way if we will anchor this object right here, the image object we've just created, to the right of our canvas, which means we won't have this huge gap changing all the time when the window gets another size. What I've done, I've changed from standalone to free aspect to just check how it might look on different windows or window ratios. Let's quickly go back to standalone and you'll see, yeah, it's way too tight to the right side. So I'm gonna grab this image, go on this grid symbol and choose this option, which will anchor our image to the right side. I click here, and next we're gonna do is set this to 0. Now it's really aligned. You can actually pretty well see it. So the point of this icon is aligned to the right side of our canvas object, and we can of course change the X position slightly to make this look good. And if I now change to free aspect, you can check and the gap is always remaining the same. Change back to standalone and rename this to frame. Click on the frame and we'll add another image, and this time this is gonna be the image, the empty image that will later on display what's inside of our frame as soon as we enter a painting. So let's also check here if it's already doing okay. Yes, it's resizing correctly by just leaving it as it is, because the image is now anchored to the center of its parent, which is the frame. So we will rename this to art image to also be sure later on what it is. And we can on the frame also make 2 text components, or maybe also more. The first text, I will immediately rename this to title text with a capital T. Doesn't matter, but it's easier to remember later on. Let's just drag it above this image. And something you maybe saw is that unlike Photoshop, where the highest object in the hierarchy or in the layer is visible, in Unity it's the other way around. So now the title is behind the image. If I drag it again in front, you will see it appears again. So maybe it's better to just leave all the text parts below art image to have them displayed always in front of it. And now I'll stretch this text component to be somewhere up here, because here I want to display later on the title of the artwork. So, and with the text title text selected, I'm going here and I can do a couple of things. For example, one that is useful is best fit. If I hit this, it will automatically resize to fit my selected size here. If I don't do this, I can also manually change the size, but as soon as it's too big, it might disappear. You can also change a font if you import some, just like we imported the graphics, and also font styles, whatever. Or if you want to start in the middle. So this is it for the moment. With the text component, I'm gonna duplicate this by hitting Command D or by right clicking and duplicate. And this one is gonna be the artist text, because we have this as well. I'm gonna put this below the frame, but leave the same size, and again duplicate, and this is going to be my description of the artwork. And I guess it needs a little bit more space, so I'll grab it, and you see, because we've selected best fit, it will automatically resize as soon as I make the field for the text bigger. Everywhere where it says new text, new text, new text, we can replace this also. in the text component of this title text, which is, if I select the title text, right here. So this will be the title. Here we will see the artist and the description. Perfect, looks quite good. We're going to be using something that is called a scriptable object to assign all the information that we need here as soon as the player touches an artwork, and therefore we're going to create a new script. Create, in my scripts folder, create C# script, and I'm going to call this one simply artwork, and double click it. And now we've always used mono behavior until now, but now we're gonna change this, and instead of mono behavior, type in scriptable object. It's suggested right here. Here we go, and I'm gonna save this quickly. I've done nothing else than just rename mono behavior to scriptable object. In case Visual Studio does not give you these suggestions, for example here, if I just write in, it will already give me suggestions. Do save it, do close it, and do restart it. It might just not have reloaded correctly. So here we go. And what happens now, if I try to grab this artwork and put it on anything, let's say our museum, this will appear. It can't add the script because it doesn't derive from mono behavior. And that's alright. In the paintings function, for example, we could assign it, and now we can't anymore. But we can do other great things with it. But let's continue a little bit and get rid of this one. Before we start the whole class, the whole script, we can, in these brackets here, write create asset menu and pass in a few things, like for example the file name that we can call new artwork, and a menu name that we call simply artwork. And now we save it. And what can we do now? What is the advantage over mono behavior? I saved it. I go back here into my Unity editor, and for the sake of having it clean, let's go to Assets, right click and create a folder that is called all artworks. Let's go in here, and maybe you already saw it. When I right click now and go to create, I now have another option here. Above folder, I can select artwork. I click on it, and you see its default name is new artwork, and I can write whatever I want in here. And when I click on it, I currently only see it derives from this artwork script. So let's delete this one and add a few things to this script. For example, and first of all, after deleting all the stuff that we don't need, we're gonna go and take a public string for title, and of course close with semicolon. What is a string? You might think it's underwear, and you're partially right, but not when it comes to coding. A string is text. Basically a combination of chars. We need another public string for the artist, and the third public string for the description. And I furthermore need a public sprite for the artwork that I just call art. Alright, so we have everything set up in here. I'm gonna save it again, go back to Unity, go to my all artworks folder that I've created, right click, create artwork, and this one I'm gonna call artwork 00. And now, you remember last time we didn't have all these empty slots here, but now we do. And we can pass in information. For example, and I'm gonna put out a sheet that you can also download with all the information about the paintings. Here we go. That's gonna be our default image here. So I'm just putting in this information, for example, title, year, and origin of the work. Artist is gonna be the next line, and what the player has to do is gonna be the description. And if I search for the artwork by pressing on this circle icon in here, I'm gonna do the question mark icon. So this is our default no artwork is selected artwork. Now I'm gonna do the same thing for the next artwork, and this one will be called artwork 1. And now it's gonna be a little bit more interesting. Let's select our very first artwork, which is from the artist Marc Chagall. Yep, Ctrl C, and I'm gonna paste it right here, same as the title of the work, and some text, text that is random. So these are not valid informations, it's stuff that I've just created to make you guys have some content for this. So again, second artwork, let's put in this artwork by Hokusai. I'll do the same thing for all the other artworks and I'll be right back. I've put all the stuff inside that's needed. Perfect, and now we need a way to assign these to this one. And therefore we're going back to our script painting function. We want now to add something to it, our public artwork variable. This is only available because we have created it in here. And we'll call it artwork. Simple. And at the start, void start, it's gonna autofill it. We want to assign the artwork specific to this piece here. So if I go in the museum, there I have the paintings, and here it is. I have here the artwork slot, and in here I'll put in my very first artwork, which is Le Cheval à la Lune. But when I start the game, I want to display the question mark, or every time I leave it again. So I'm gonna make a second artwork variable and call it no or empty artwork. Call it no artwork. And in here, again selecting my painting after it has compiled, we have no artwork and artwork. And here I'll put my artwork 00 inside, which has like this default information and the question mark as an icon. And now we can change our display artwork method for the first time to do something more game related. And we're gonna call start display artwork from the start already. So it won't do anything now except write this line of code here. In these brackets here, we can pass in a variable that we want to be using in this method. For example, if we pass in, and we need to declare this first, a variable from the type artwork, and we call it current artwork, or let's say artwork to display. We can now say debug.log, and let's get rid of this and say artwork equals, and if we go outside of this debug string, we can say plus artwork to display dot, and now we can access all the things that we have defined here, like title, artist description, and art. Dot title. So if we now go inside this trigger area of the painting, we should print out artwork equals plus the artwork that we want to display, and you can see that we have now this error here, that the display artwork is underlined with this waved red line. This is because we defined, hey, we need the artwork to pass into this function, and we don't do it here yet. So we want at the start to display the no artwork, because the player is not touching any artwork. Here we go, no artwork. And later, if the player enters this collider, we want to display the artwork. So we pass this in as a variable here. We save it. We go inside Unity again, wait for it to compile, and have a close look at the console. We can see, yes, at start, it did exactly what we wanted. It triggered display artwork with no artwork, and the artwork's title in this case is title and year of origin of the work. Worked. And if I now enter it, bam, we see the artwork equals now the one that we assigned it to be its artwork here, 1, Le Cheval à la Lune. Alright, so this is again just a debug log. We want to display it in here. And therefore, again, we need some more variables because we want to access now the frames, art image, title, artist, text, and description text. Let's go back to our code. And to do this, we need to add a new using directive. Using Unity engine.ui. Now we can do inside of the script everything that has to do with the user interface, everything under the canvas. So we can now choose to assign a public image, of course, that we call UI image, public text. That's why I said before that strings are not texts inside of C#, but they are if you're generally speaking. So, okay, public text. This is the title, underscore text. Then we can copy this and paste it twice to have the artist text and the description text. Now in our display artwork function, we want UI image.sprite, which accesses this component here, where we have the source image, where we can usually pick something, and if we don't pick anything, it's just this none, which is an empty color that we can change. So we're gonna access this source image component variable in the image component, and we're gonna say it's the artwork we want to display dot art, which is the sprite that we assign to each of them, and say that the title text dot text, which is this here, equals artwork to display dot title. Next we have the artist text dot text equals artwork to display dot artist. And last but not least, description text dot text equals artwork to display dot description. Here we go. We wait for it to compile, and if I do it now, I get another reference exception, and I'll get a couple of them as soon as I touch the painting. Why? Let's have a look at our painting. Here are a lot of slots that have no component yet inside. So we can basically take this art image and drag it into the UI image slot that we have created, the title text here, the artist text here, and the description text here. And if I run it now, all the components are set and perfect. It's now displaying the title, it's now displaying the artist and the description as well as the image. And if I now touch the painting, tac, it now changes and displays the Cheval à la Lune from Marc Chagall and a short description. Perfect. I decided to end this episode here because the video is already quite long, but you're already able to create your own individual scenery now. Well done! In the next episode, I'll show you a way to expand your level, add more artwork, and the grim boss Thief, who brings meaningful tasks into the gameplay. For questions and suggestions, as always, write me in the comments. Thanks for watching and see you soon!